Rishi was always in a hurry. At 35, he had built a successful business, owned luxury cars, and traveled the world. But in chasing his dreams, he had forgotten one thing: his own life. His wife, Mira, often told him, "You spend all your time earning money, but what's the point if you have no time to spend it?" He would always respond, "Just a few more years, Mira. Then we can enjoy life." But fate had its own plans. The wake-up call. One morning, as Rishi rushed out for a meeting, he suddenly collapsed. His vision blurred and his world faded to black. When he woke up, he found himself in a hospital bed. Mira was beside him, holding his hand tightly, eyes filled with fear. The doctor's words hit him like a thunderbolt. "Your heart is under extreme stress. If you don't slow down, you might not have much time left." Rishi laughed nervously. "Come on. Doc, I'm only 35. I have plenty of time." The doctor shook his head. "Time isn't something you can buy, Rishi. You're borrowing it now. Use it wisely." That night, lying in the hospital bed, he stared at the ceiling. For the first time in years, he was forced to stop. The ticking clock on the wall suddenly felt louder. The phone on his bedside table was filled with unread messages, missed calls, and unfinished deals. But none of it mattered now. Who would miss him if he didn't wake up tomorrow? A different kind of life. For the first time in years, Rishi didn't rush to work. Instead, he sat by the window, watching the sun rise. He noticed things he had ignored for years: the laughter of children playing outside, the birds chirping, the warmth of Mira's presence beside him. One morning, as he sipped his tea, he saw an old man struggling to cross the street. In his previous life, Rishi wouldn't have noticed. But now, something inside him shifted. He got up, walked outside, and helped the man across. The old man smiled. "Thank you, son. The world needs more people who take time to care." Those words stayed with Rishi. Had he really been so busy that he had forgotten to be human? Reconnecting with the past. Determined to change, Rishi decided to visit his hometown. It had been 15 years since he last saw his parents. When he arrived, his mother's eyes welled up. "You finally remembered us, Beta." His father, once strong and full of life, now needed help to walk. Guilt crushed him. His parents had given him their time when he was young. He had been too busy to give them his. That night, as he sat with them, listening to their old stories, he realized something. Success means nothing if you have no one to share it with. As he left, his mother placed her wrinkled hands on his. "Don't let time steal what matters, Rishi." Those words echoed in his mind. The forgotten promise. Years ago, Rishi had promised his childhood best friend Amit that they would travel to the mountains together, but life had gotten in the way. Now, he finally made that trip. Amit, now a father of two, welcomed him with open arms. As they sat by a bonfire, Amit said, "I always thought we'd do this in our 20s. Guess time had other plans." Rishi sighed. Or maybe I was too blind to see how precious time was. As they hiked through the mountains, Rishi felt something he hadn't in years: peace. The endless deadlines, the financial goals, the stress, it all felt meaningless compared to this moment. At the peak, Amit pointed to the sunrise. "This is what we live for, Rishi. Not boardrooms, not bank balances, moments like these." For the first time in years, Rishi truly felt alive. A new perspective. Rishi started spending more time with Mira. They took long walks, cooked together, and laughed like they used to. He also started mentoring young entrepreneurs, not just about business, but about life. Don't wait for tomorrow to live. Time doesn't wait for anyone. One evening, he saw a young man in a cafe, too busy typing emails to notice his little daughter trying to talk to him. Rishi walked over and said, "She won't be this little forever. Put the laptop away." The man looked up, confused at first, but then saw his daughter's hopeful eyes. He shut his laptop and pulled her into a hug. Rishi smiled. Another lesson passed forward. One evening, while watching the sunset with Mira, he felt a sudden sharp pain in his chest. This time he didn't panic. He simply held her hand and smiled. "I finally get it, Mira," he whispered. "Another time isn't something we own. We only borrow it. And I've spent too much of it chasing the wrong things." Tears streamed down her face. "I'm just glad you realized it before it was too late." The next day, he visited the hospital for a checkup. The doctor smiled and said, "Your heart is doing better. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Rishi knew the truth. He had started living. The final lesson. One day, as he was closing the shop, a teenage boy rushed in, panicked. "Sir, my grandfather's clock stopped working. It's his only memory of my grandmother. Can you fix it?" Rishi smiled and nodded. "Of course, son. Some things are worth more than time." As he repaired the old clock, he felt his father's presence in every tick. He finally understood the meaning of time, not in seconds or minutes, but in love, in moments, in giving. The last train. Years later, Rishi sat at a train station, watching people rush to their destinations. A younger man beside him was too busy on his phone to notice his mother struggling with her bag. Rishi smiled and leaned over. "You know, son, there's always another train. But the time you lose now, you may never get back." The young man paused, then put his phone away and helped his mother. Rishi smiled. His life's greatest lesson had not gone in vain. Moral of the story: time is the most valuable currency. Don't wait until it's borrowed. Spend it wisely while it's still yours.